Natalie's off playing a tennis match. I've been home babysitting a foster dog. You ever done that? It's my first. Short version of a long story. We've got some family live in the D.C. area, and they have been on the hunt for a dog they wanted to rescue. And there's nothing that they're really looking for. They've got 3 young kids, and all they've got there are these great big dogs, and they want something a little smaller. And so they said, "Do you know anybody?" And of course, we do a lot of work with the local humane society, and so they're coming into town in a few weeks, and we're fostering this dog for them with the hopes that she will be rehabilitated. Here's a picture. Everybody meet Gracie. Gracie is a work in progress. She has been, I don't know what her story is. Owner surrendered because the owner was traveling. That's what we've heard. But, Gracie's awfully timid, and it doesn't feel like I'm in a new environment timid. It's either I haven't been touched or handled much, and I hope not, I've been struck or abused. So I don't know. So we brought her over, and we've been kind of working her slowly, stair-stepping her out of her funk. Doesn't show a lot of personality, spends a lot of time sitting in the little kennel that we've got for her. But slowly we're starting to see those little bits of personality pop out, We saw half a tail wag today. You know what I'm saying? Saw half a tail wag. That's gratifying. Like, you see that and you're like, oh, there is something in there. So we're not totally sure that she's going to be right for this family, but we're fostering. And everybody's like, oh, that's a foster fail waiting to happen. The dog's going to become part of your family. And I don't think so. I mean, you never know. We are fostering her for somebody else. So world meet Gracie. Gracie meet world. So I had some people ask if I would do some greets and shout outs to people on this app called Cameo. And you just run it on your phone. And so I signed up, and I've done 4 or 5 of them. It's a blast. Hey, my friend Steve's got a birthday. He's a big fan of the show. And so they send me a request, and I do this, hey, Steve, happy birthday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening thing. And it's real informal. I mean, totally informal. I think I was in the back porch, just walking around. Hey, Steve, happy birthday. It was so much fun, and I get to make a few bucks on it. I don't charge very much. Some of these people are crazy. The big celebrities, you pay like thousands of dollars for a shout out. You're going to be shitting me. I charge about as much as it costs for a sushi roll, but I'm using the revenue from the Cameo shout outs to fund ghost stories. But anyway, if you want me to do a Cameo shout out, just search Seth Andrews at cameo.com, or I put the link in the description box. But the reason I'm funding ghost stories is because I have put together yet another ambitious finale that is either going to be a home run out of the park. People are going to love it and say, I'm so glad I listened to ghost stories, or they're going to unsubscribe and circle my home with torches. Okay. I can't, I'm afraid to describe it too much, but it's so different. It's an ensemble piece. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6, maybe 7 different voice actors in it. Some of which are not, I can't just use friends, but they have to be pros. They're actors. So I got to hire these people. And I'm looking for a certain sound. And so, the whole freaking show is going to probably cost me more than I make. Maybe not. But I'm going to try to make some of that back so that it's not that big of a hit using the Cameo greets. So, just know I'm a little bit selfish when I tell you that I'm having fun doing it, because part of it is that, well, it does help just a little bit to offset some of those costs. I'm excited about ghost stories. I saw somebody, was it Terzilla Ford, who had posted a meme or something that said something about Halloween, and it said, don't ever apologize for getting excited about the things that make you happy. Now, I don't know what Halloween's going to look like this year. I don't think anybody knows what Halloween's going to look like this year. But I'm doing Halloween. I've got my 80s horror icons from last year that we built. Um, it's Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. And I saw something on the internet where they place them all around a table, and it's got that sign on the front, and it says, "The teenagers deserved it. Change our minds." So I think that's going to be the decoration this year. It gives me a chance to repurpose the scary guys. But also, I'm wondering, how does trick or treat work? You got your hands on the candy wrappers that go out, and how do you get around that? Like, how do you, and there's a way to do it. We're creative people. Am I going to have a bowl and like some salad tongs? Go over there and grab the Reese's, grab the Snickers, you got to have peanut M&Ms and Kit Kat. Kit Kat. If you don't have Kit Kat, it ain't Halloween. So you're not actually touching anybody, and you're not touching the candy wrapper, at least you can go right out of the big bag into the bowl, tongs into their bag. I think it's possible to do Halloween without any personal touch or contact. I think it's possible to do trick-or-treating post-COVID or during COVID. Jim in the chat said use sandwich bags. But if you touch the outside of the sandwich bag to zip the bag, does that defeat the purpose? By the way, what's your favorite Halloween candy? I'm just curious. Peanut M&Ms, Kit Kat. I hate the orange circus peanuts. Hate them. Jolly Rancher stick to my teeth. Those little Lincoln log thingies, the logs, I don't know what they're called. Logs, the black and brown or white and brown little things that are the anything chocolate and peanut butter, probably. Three Musketeers. Yeah. I'm just saying. In the chat. Just talk amongst yourselves about Halloween. What else was on my little brain? By the way, I will take a few calls since we're just killing time tonight on this totally informal live stream. It should be out today. I did a conversation with Lucian Greaves, the co-founder of the Satanic Temple, about my new book, and he wanted to talk about it. Well, Lucian's just awesome. Like, he is so freaking intelligent. You just sit down and you just start talking. Like, we didn't really have to do any sort of preemptive preparation. We didn't sit around and go through all of this sort of blow by blow. Here's what we're going to talk about. We just started talking, and a half an hour like that, it's gone. And I could have done another half hour to an hour with the guy. And I think I'm going to have him back on the show. I profiled him. I've got a video on my YouTube channel called Lucian Greaves Satanic. We've done a couple, I think, other podcast conversations. They're always in the middle of this state church fight. The Satanic Temple is a non-theistic religion. And it's actually helped to change my mind a little bit about the utility of non-theistic religions. And I'm still trying to know my own mind on this, okay? But if you can have a religion that provides ritual, community, common goals, I don't know. I mean, something where you're not lying to each other. Like the Satanic Temple doesn't believe in the supernatural. They don't believe in a literal Satan character. They see Satan as an icon, which represents a rebellion against tyranny. Because if you look at the amount of murders and rapes and awfulness, in the Christian Bible, Satan actually comes off pretty well. Isn't that weird? Like, if you count the people who were murdered by Yahweh and people who were killed by Satan, I mean, Satan comes off pretty well. And if you look at him as an icon, where he essentially said, no, I'm not going to do it your way. No, I'm not going to bow. No, I'm not going to sit around and kiss your ass all day long. I'm going to do it my way. there is some utility in sort of framing that as symbolic of our response to tyrants. And so, anyway, I've just become a fan of Lucian. Their stuff's obviously it's a bit extreme for me. It's nothing I could really participate in, when they're out there doing those demonstrations where they're pouring milk on each other's heads and they're on their knees chanting and chains and handcuffs and stuff like that in person. you know, but when I see, Rapert in Arkansas trying to get that freaking Ten Commandment statue in front of the Capitol courthouse or the Capitol grounds, and he's totally oblivious to the concept of state church separation. So then the church or the Satanic Temple goes in and go, all right, fine. You're going to put a religious symbol here? You're going to open the door to religions? Well, thank you very much. We're a religion. I think we'll put Baphomet. Baphomet sitting here with the big friggin' horns and the big star, and there's two children in the middle, and I mean, I think that's brilliant. It's brilliant. So anyway, I've become a fan of the Satanic. I mean, who would have thought? If you go back and get in the Wayback Machine and go back and find me when I'm 30 years old and say, hey, one day you're going to be buddies with co-founder of the Satanic Temple. I would have laughed you out of the room. There's no freaking way I'm going to be friends with the co-founder of the Satanic Temple. But I am. And I love how freaked out people get when TST walks into a situation. They're wearing all black and they've got their symbols, and people who are supposedly the most confident believers in God, who is all powerful, and Satan has no power to win any victories. The devil can't lift a finger against the almighty power, the omnipotence of Yahweh Jesus, blah, blah, blah. By the way, we're terrified. Like the people who claim that God has already won the battle and Satan has no power, have you noticed they're constantly shitting themselves over Satan all the time? The satanic panic continues today. We're seeing it across the board. The pulpit pounders and the televangelists and the scammers and the politicians, certainly all the devil, the devil, the devil, the devil, the devil. I mean, these are people who act like their God is useless and that they have to do all the heavy lifting. So, to watch them freak out about Satan and the Satanic Temple, to me, I think that's just freaking amazing. I think that's awesome. So anyway, he's going to release that. You can, if you don't follow his pages, I'll give him a signal boost on. Not that he needs it, but I'll throw it out on my pages tonight or in the morning. He's been making all of his Patreon content free during COVID, which I mean I really respect. I mean I can't afford to do it, but he's been able to do it, and I've been doing extra, like I did a couple of bonus shows this month, just free. But I'll throw it out there. So you guys, and it's 30 minutes and it's us just talking unprepared. And I'm going to have him back on the show. I'm going to have him back on the show. So anyway, keep waiting to hear a dog downstairs whining, or Gracie's pretty quiet. Oh, by the way, I was going to show you. I brought it up here to show you this. What this dog was wearing, yes, wearing, when we rescued her, we went to the Humane Society and she had just been surrendered in such short order that she hadn't even been seen by the veterinarian yet and given the once-over, okay? So, I mean, she's hot out of whatever situation she's been in. She's got an ear infection in both ears. Her claws are really long. She's just scared to death, okay? So we open up the cage and she's just like this, all right? So hang on, this is Gracie again. Get my chat room out of the way here. That's Gracie. All right, you can see she's still afraid. All right, so she is wearing what the hell did the woman put on this dog? No wonder she screwed up. It looks like she was doing a guest shot on Hee Haw. That shit is going in the trash. It's going in the trash. We do clothes on our dogs. It's usually like, a jacket for the winter because it's cold. Cute dogs don't need a bunch of clothes, and they certainly don't need to look like, somebody coughed up blood. Look at that. It's terrifying. Somebody in the chat said, "Why have you not burned it?" Yes. Who would do this to a dog? Plus, it's August. It's 95 degrees in Oklahoma. And she's got this poor dog walking around wearing this thick piece of cloth that is kind of, oh, God. Oh, yeah. There's no wonder Gracie's got issues. Yeah, she's going to need therapy. Wearing that shit all around. Just crazy. Crazy. I actually see some people on the call-in queue. I guess we should speak. Let me run over here and grab 570. Hi, who's this?
Hey, Seth, it's Steve. How are you?
Steve, good evening. We're just killing time together. Just another sort of a COVID distraction. What's on your mind?
Not too much. I just wanted to share my deconstruction a little bit. It sounds a little familiar to yours. Was raised in the church, came into the name it and claim it era in the 80s. Actually, where you're living right now, Rhema was sort of the Mecca. I'm from Pennsylvania, but everyone headed down to Rhema Bible Training Institute to be touched by Kenneth Hagin or Kenneth Copeland or one of those guys.
That place is like 6 minutes from my house, right? I mean, I could throw a rock and hit Rhema Bible Training Center. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
We're up here in cold country in Pennsylvania, and I mean, that's all they ever talked about, the Rhema caravans going down there. And so anyway, left there for the Assembly of God church, and it was sort of a step down, actually, because name it and claim it was really radical, and Assembly of Gods were somewhat radical, but not too radical. So I fit in there, and that's when Rich Mullins died during that time. And I was always liked Rich Mullins, saw him twice at Creation, spoke to him personally, got some autographs, and just always felt like he was, I think towards the end, he was really coming up against a CCM machine and was really trying to, push back against it. Went out to New Mexico or where he went to the Indian reservation. And from what I understand, towards the end of his life there, he was really thinking about converting to Catholicism. So I then left there, and he sort of, the same thing with you, was like, my God, this great dude that I loved his music, loved his message. If God could allow this. And I started going down, and then finally ended up, believe it or not, in a mega church. I don't know how I ended up there, but recently got out of the mega church. And where I'm at right now, and my question to you is, do you see any relevance in any type of religion or any type of fellowship, Zen Buddhism? You were talking a little bit about the satanic church, because I miss that. I miss a lot of the camaraderie, the music, and you know what I'm talking about. Do you recommend anything at all, or what do you do to sort of deal with all of that?
Well, we as a movement are shit at community sometimes. We have a long way to go. The church has been doing community for so long, and they do it so well, And here we are, we're these sort of herded cats, independent thinkers. We don't herd, really very well at all. And sometimes it's hard to rally us together and get us in the same physical space. I mean, and there are many exceptions. You can go to conventions and there are local groups, but even those groups have had their struggles. I cheated a little bit when I was desperate for community. I kind of started one. I was looking around here in Oklahoma and I felt like I was totally alone. And so the Thinking Atheist became this sort of online family for me at a time when I felt like I didn't have anybody. And, the only advice I give to people who are reaching out for the things that they miss, I think most of the best things in church that they miss can be found beyond superstition. There are good people out there. There are friendships. There are people who will miss you. There's great music you can share together in a communal experience. There are support groups. All those things exist in models that don't involve lying to children and that kind of thing. But on the internet, you have to do a little more homework sometimes to find them. And there is at this point, and there's not as many of those in-person groups as I sure would like for them to be. But beyond that, I just think start virtually. I think recoveringfromreligion.org has some great resources, and they can perhaps hook you up locally with people, even if you're not going through sort of religious trauma or post-religious trauma. But, they've got the hookup to organizations and groups who are, they get together and they share life, that kind of thing. So that might be a good place to start, okay?
Yeah, very good. One question for you, Seth, because I know you have your thumb on the pulse of what's happening here with the church and whatnot. But so that last church I was involved in was a mega church, and they were so, how could I say, 10,000 miles wide, 1 inch deep. And they did not talk about abortion. They did not talk about hell. They didn't talk about homosexuality or gay marriage. And they were just drawing, young people in. And it seems like that is the direction of many mega churches, where they don't talk about any of the controversial stuff in the Bible, a 6,000-year earth, Noah and the animals, and they just draw these people in, and their tagline, their hashtag is, wherever you're at spiritually, we accept you. Just come on in. And I just want to ask you, what do you think the future of that is? Do you think that is a viable way to run church, to get a whole bunch of young folks in, where it really doesn't matter what you believe? We have a really cool band, we have really good coffee, really pretty people, and really cool clothes. Just come on in and hang out. Do you think that's viable long term, or do you think that's going to collapse on its own weight?
I think that's what they're doing with some success, but 30 and unders are leaving the church in droves. I think what we're seeing isn't just an attempt for the church to reach out to a generation that's slipping through its fingers when they go quote unquote mainstream and become these sort of, Tony Robbins, you are somebody special kind of seeker friendly churches. We're watching evolution. This is the church evolving and adapting to survive, because fundamentalism largely doesn't play in the year 2020. People being threatened with hell and you being bigots against gay people. Those churches exist, but they are more and more drifting into kind of an outer membrane of fundamentalist Christianity or mainstream Christianity. So in order to remain relevant, what does the church have to do? The church has to adapt. All right, well, let's be culturally relevant. We won't teach as much of the Bible, but we will be the music they listen to, the T-shirts they wear, the friends they have, etc. The church has been adapting generation by generation for thousands of years. A great example is even the Catholic Church, right? Talk about a dogmatic, stuck-in-the-mud religious organization. And yet even they, back in 1982, when they had to admit that evolution, they actually admitted to the science of evolution is correct. Well, why did they do that? Because sticking to the creation model, when the overwhelming evidence proved evolution, they realized the only way to stay relevant was to adapt and to embrace it and then say, well, God did evolution. So you and I think, are seeing this ever-moving sort of adaptation of religious entities in an attempt to be culturally relevant. But I mean, they're fighting a losing battle in this country. Religion will always be here, but more and more people are leaving day by day. And personally, I don't think people need church. We need groups, we need people, we need community, and all that. But we don't have to lie to children. You know, we can get all the good stuff without religion. Okay.
All right, Seth, thank you. And I want to say keep the faith, but keep whatever and keep doing what you're doing, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for calling. Take care. Be safe out there.
All right.
Dave Fitzgerald was on the podcast a few years ago, and he was like, if you want proof of evolution, look at Christianity. Like, if the people today practice the Christianity that they're practicing now in the 11th century, they would have been burned as heretics. You know? Well, I don't really hold to the book of Genesis. I don't think Adam and Eve were literal. That's just a story. We tried that shit during the Crusades. I don't know if there was a real Moses. No big deal. You know what I'm saying? Noah's Ark, well, you know, it's probably didn't happen. I don't know. Those people would have been like broken on the wheel. You know, I think women should be given the chance to preach. Sure. Yeah. Let women stand behind the pulpit and give instruction. Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Our church and many of our deacons, they're females. Try that shit in the 11th century and see what happens. Well, because the culture was becoming more and more enlightened slowly, the church had to adapt to survive. This is gonna be the case. You're gonna see the church trying to look more like the culture to attract the culture. But you know, more and more people, they're just saying, "Hey, I don't need it." Good for them. 260, hi. Thanks for waiting on me. Who's this?
Hi, Steph. This is Aaron. How's your evening going?
Is it Aaron?
Yes, sir.
What's on your mind?
Well, yeah, just a little background. I'm oh boy, maybe now 4 years an atheist. Born in a Christian family, went to a Christian college. Decided halfway through that maybe it wasn't for me, but I came out to my mom actually less than a year ago, and I've been having those same conversations with her, trying to get her to understand like why I don't believe anymore, just how Christianity itself has evolved over the years, and the faith that she adheres to is not the same belief that people had 1,000 years ago or even 100 years ago.
How's that working?
So,
right? I mean, she's probably not listening.
No, I don't know where she is mentally. I think she is inquisitive. She reads a lot. The funny thing, actually, she quit going to church a couple of years before I did. I had been doing a lot of searching, and I flipped between a lot of different denominations. I was raised Adventist, and when my parents, when you're a child, they still drag you to church, so that's what I was brought up into. And around the time I was a teenager, they decided that wasn't for us anymore. They had a lot of disagreements with that church, so we flipped over and we became United Brethren. And that went on for a couple of years, and they decided, oh no, we don't want to do that anymore. So they quit going to church, and I said, oh well, maybe I'm not one of these denominationalist Christians. I'm a non-denominational Christian. I'm sure you've heard of those people before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you found your way out, you know. So, as far as your mom, I think it's important that she know where you are, you know, but I wouldn't paw at her trying to get her to change her mind, you know. I think just be you and in full view, you know. So
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not in the business of trying to get her to change, but more trying to understand where I am.
Yeah.
In my belief or lack thereof now. And you know what was interesting for me, I think probably a very similar experience that a lot of new atheists have is a lot of personal resentment for coming into the realization that you've been lied to your whole life. And for me, I think I didn't have quite that much experience. It was a very slow burn for me. I will tell you that. Like for me, when I just decided, you know what, this isn't for me, and I know when it was in the middle of my my undergrad class at this Christian university. I realized, you know what, this just isn't for me anymore. So I just dropped off of it, and I felt more relieved that I didn't have to make excuses or lie to myself about who I really was. And I realized in hindsight that it was that way because I got all my resentment out when I was still a Christian, flipping between these denominations and being furious with, oh, I don't believe in Adventists. Like they're liars. They're the devil. They're the mark of the beast, whatever you want. Or no, I don't believe in United Brethren. They're the mark of the devil. And I just kind of got that resentment out of my system through that. And once I decided, no, maybe it's not a denomination's problem. Maybe it's the source material.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm glad you crawled out, dude. You know, that's good news. I'm glad to hear your voice.
Yeah.
But, you know, good luck with your mom. I think just let her see the good person that you are. That's a good place to start, okay?
Yeah, I'm doing my best, Seth. I think that's the best I can hope for.
All right. Be safe out there.
You too.
All right,
Bye.
see you later. A bit of a delay there. Sorry. 765. Hi, who's this?
My name is Doug. I'm in Kokomo, Indiana.
What's up, Doug? What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for your book. I bought it on Amazon, and it's opened my eyes up to a lot of things that I didn't realize when I was a kid growing up, and how the Christianity influenced in government and politics. And it's just it's been a revelation to me reading your book. And I'm about 4 chapters in. Yes, sir, that one there. Yes. And,
Sorry, I'm just shameless,
awesome.
dude.
You're all right, brother.
Sorry.
Yeah, promote it all you want. I like it. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
I'm fascinated by your work and by Matt Dillahunty and you guys are just fantastic. And I can't give you guys enough credit for what you do.
Oh, you're very kind. Thanks for supporting the book. Go ahead.
What I wanted to say was I'm kind of in a dilemma because we're in this pandemic, and I've been going down to the storehouse. This is a church surrounded storehouse. And I feel an obligation to help people in need and pass out food and be a volunteer in my community. And I'm not really into church. I'm an atheist. Everybody knows I'm an atheist, but it's just kind of a weird atmosphere, you know, in where I'm at. And I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that kind of perspective of what you're thinking on that.
Like, how do you connect with a charitable cause that is not necessarily church driven?
Yeah, that kind of a thing.
Locally, I'm of no help to you. I you know, it's one of those things where if it was me, I would probably look and see if you have an atheist or free thought or humanist group in your town, check for a meetup or Google it, and then from there see if they have any sort of community efforts. Most of the stuff I do relates more on the national and international level, organizations like Foundation Beyond Belief, where, you know, we help to fund them as they send agents into places around the country and around the world that are in desperate need of aid and help and medicines, etc. But if you're looking local for a chance to kind of get your hands dirty, all I've got is maybe a Google search or a meetup search for the atheist or humanist group in your town, and then query them to see if they've got any actions. Okay?
All right, Seth, thank you very much for your time, buddy. Thank you for what you're doing.
Very kind. Be safe. Thank you. 469. Thanks for waiting on me. Hi, who's this? 469. Hello.
Hello, Seth.
Yeah, I can barely hear you, my friend.
Oh, sorry. It's me, Jay. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, thanks for calling, Jay. Thanks for the kind words. What's on your mind?
A couple of weeks ago, I had a chat with. Have you ever heard of that gentleman, Matt Slick, by chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a chat, and I brought up the idea that if the biblical God is real, he's pretty much evil. And as soon as I brought that up, he just hangs up. And my thing is that a good portion of these believers and stuff just kind of give up, or you aren't speaking about the stuff that we like to hear, and then it's almost kind of like a cowardice on the inside.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons people justify the awfulness of Yahweh. Here's another one I've been doing, and I wrote about this in the book. But there's a couple of guys in the Netherlands, and what they did, and this is a stunt that keeps them from leaving right off the bat. It's a little bit of a trap, but it's situational. It might be appropriate. Go in there and say, you know what? It's interesting you talk about Christianity. I've been talking about the Abrahamic religions recently. Do you know much about Islam? Did you know that Islam, and then instead of reading from the Quran or giving the reference to a Quranic story, sneak in a biblical story, but don't tell them it's biblical. Hey, did you know that if a woman was suspected of committing adultery, that they would drag her before an Islamic tribunal and make her drink bitter water, and if she had been unfaithful, that it would abort the baby? Did you know that? And they'll be like, oh my God, that's terrible. Did you know that if two men were fighting and the wife went out and she intervened on her husband's behalf and he touched the other guy's private parts, that they were commanded by Allah to cut off her hand and show her no mercy? They'll be like, oh my God, I told you this was a barbaric religion. And you can go point by point, right? Just give them a few Old Testament examples that are dressed up in the window dressing of Islam. And then once they're all riled up saying, oh, I've been saying for years that Islam's crazy, then you say, well, I have to come clean. I've been a little bit disingenuous with you. The stories and everything I just told you were out of the Christian Bible. And then there'll be a moment of uncomfortable silence, right?
Yes.
And then they may deny it's in there. And then you're going to have to show them, all right, here, chapter, verse, chapter, verse, chapter, verse. And even then, they're not going to agree with you in the moment. But I think you might have planted a seed, something that might grow in them over the weeks, months, and years moving forward. So that's a tactic you might try, okay?
Well, I fully agree. Thanks, Seth. But the thing is, there's in every religion, there's, no matter what anybody says, a level of hypocrisy.
I agree. Well, I mean, some of that's part of the human condition. I mean, I find it. There are atheist hypocrites. There were Buddhist hypocrites. There are all kinds of people who are hypocritical in their lives. But it's certainly true that religion sets its members up to be hypocrites, right? Because you are supposed to broadcast this sort of moral purity. Hell, Jerry Falwell Jr., I got a show that releases tomorrow to the general public. It's called Unzipped. It's about Jerry Falwell Jr. and these scandals about him, right? I mean, he sets his college up, and he sets himself up to be this bastion of moral purity. Hypocrisy is the only result if you are a flawed human being. And so you're right. Religion fosters and fuels that very much.
What I would recommend for you to watch, Seth, is Underlings, A Case for an Evil God. He goes into incredible detail about how the Bible sets itself up for failure, and it gives example about hypocrisy, and he just does an entire presentation, and it's incredible the excuses that people make up, and that was my point, and I'm happy you addressed the point. Thank you so much, Seth.
Yeah, I'll look it up, brother. Thanks for calling the show. Appreciate you.
Have a good afternoon, my friend.
All right, see you later.
Bye there.
Underlings, YouTube. Evil God. Biblical evidence proving that God is evil, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. What the ultimate evil God would look like. What the followers of an evil God would be like. No, I don't know anything about this channel. Underlings. Looks like it hasn't been updated in 6 years. I don't know. It might be worth a Google search if you're interested. Let me switch back over here real fast. 614. Hi, who's this?
Hey, this is Joel. How are you doing?
I'm good, Joel. How you holding up?
Pretty good. Thank you for signing my book for the Confessions.
You
I
betcha.
got
It's an
that
honor. Thank
a couple
you.
of weeks ago.
Thanks for
I
supporting it.
read through it. Interesting. That book reminded me of I was in the same mental state. However, I wasn't exposed to Fox News because it didn't really exist at the time. It was more from ABC News. So I went through a similar kind of path. I didn't understand it at the time, but it was, prior to Fox's influence.
Yeah.
But it was like we were reading the same one, but it's a different networks. But anyways, so I appreciate that.
All right.
So
anything else?
I got out of religion. I got out of religion a couple of years ago. Now I got rid of all the magical thinking. However, it still comes back and haunts me a little bit. So on a little lighter side is the silly thing that happens to me is if I put my cell phone in my left pocket and I drive somewhere, it rings. But if I don't put it in my left pocket when I drive somewhere, it doesn't ring. Why, I don't know, but it's kind of like the magical thinking, the superstition kind of thing. But I don't know.
All right. So
people experience serious, silly things like that.
All right. Well, that's a whole correlation causation argument that we'll have to peer review that one. Okay.
Right. Just a little lightheaded joke.
I love
anyways, I thought you would find humor.
I love it. All right. Be safe.
All right. Well, thank you.
See you later.
All right. Later. Bye.
All right, bye. Sorry. I haven't thrown this away yet. Is this not the most god-awful, ugly dog clothing you've ever seen? Who does this to a dog? No wonder she's neurotic. I'm just saying. 914. Hi, who's this?
Hi, I'm Joe.
Joe, what's going on? What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I'm sure you've seen plenty of, well, first, big fan, love your work. Thank you for all you do.
No, thank you.
But also, I'm sure you've heard of Elon Musk's new Neuralink.
Yeah.
How they insert the thing in your brain. And my family and some people online, super Christian evangelicals, are saying this is it. This is the mark of the beast. It goes from it being barcodes at grocery stores to RFID chips to Elon Musk. And I can't ever win with my family and stuff because it's like I can tell them the historical arguments that disprove, the Bible. I can tell them like our neurological studies. I can tell them how contradictory passages are and how morally wrong they are. But they always go back to, look, Israel's a nations again. Look, the mark of the beast, it's these chips. I'm wondering how often do you hear these stuff about like the mark of the beast and the chips and how you try not to die of laughter when you hear this?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're all pattern seekers, but the church is always looking around for confirmation that it's the end of the world. In Sacred Cows, the final chapter is called "This is the End, Beautiful Friend." And I go through this pinballing of end of the world predictions for, I think, a couple of thousand years. I just sort of highlight some of the big ones. Like every generation has been saying, this is it. The debauchery of humankind is proof that at any moment the skies will part and God is going to come and he's going to judge humanity and it's over. And this is thousands of years ago. What's that meme on the internet that says, Jesus Christ is going to return in my lifetime. Signed, billions of dead people. Okay. And so, when I remember you mentioned barcodes. Remember back when they first stopped hand keying in retail stores, grocery stores, and started scanning the barcodes, and there was the church wigged out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that is, man, the computer and the barcode. These are all precursors to the one world government. Blah blah blah. I mean, these people are going to look around. There was a verse in the book of Revelation I remember that was used by I think it was apocalyptic preacher Hal Lindsey. And they read this verse in Revelation and interpreted it to mean the modern day helicopter. I think there was something about locusts made of steel, or I don't know if they had steel back then, but it was something along those lines. And so they thought, well, of course we have helicopters in the sky today. So the book of Revelation's talking about now, which was the 20th century. And I think, they're going to have an apocalyptic narrative. They're going to pattern seek their way into believing that it's over. It's all over. It's all coming to an end. I find great utility in not being afraid. I like to kind of tweak that,
Oh, yeah. I feel the same. I met Matt Delahunty in person. He did a debate with Dinesh D'Souza here in New York, and I told him like when I met him, I shook his hand. I said, "It's thanks to you that I've stopped having nightmares about hell." It was literally his logic pattern, and that's why like anytime something new happens, oh, there's this new chip Elon Musk is doing. Oh, there's something that's happening in Israel. That stuff like. I'm 31 now, but ever since I was like 10 years old and going on through my 20s, I believe that every single little thing was just a sign of the end until, I started putting it all together. It's like, you're right. There's always going to be something, and then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's nothing else. We can sort of chuckle and be thankful we don't live in fear. And I'm glad you got out. I'm glad you don't have those fears, because that stuff's real. That'll mess you up. That'll impact your life, your stress levels, your sleep, your relationships. I mean, it just ripples out,
The dreams I've had, man, and now I know. Now they don't. They all stop.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, funny how that works.
Well, what we do is one day you just stamp a barcode on your forehead and you show up at Thanksgiving dinner and you're like, hey, it's the next big thing, and see what happens. So thanks for talking to me.
Thank you so much, Seth.
All right. Take care. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
True story. I gave a speech. Oh, God, I can't remember which speech it was. We were talking about being afraid of the devil and how it took me years to get over that, like hell and demons and what if I'm wrong. And at the end of the speech, I put up a picture of some artist's illustration of Satan. And I said, I'm going to take the hit for the entire audience here. I then, from the stage, prayed to Lucifer. And I said, if you exist, I now sell my soul to you. Given that if you appear now to take me, you will have proven yourself. And then by default, you will have proven the existence of Yahweh, right? Because if there is a Satan, there's probably going to be the opposite side of that coin. I'm willing to sell my soul if you will manifest right now to take me and provide proof to the rest of the audience that you are real. And I put up my hands like this, like I was ready to receive. I was ready for Satan to come up from the depths. And it's funny because even among atheist communities and atheist circles, they flipped out. It shows you how deep-seated these fears are of the devil in the dark. Some people who'd come out of the religion of Christianity or Catholicism, they came forward and they were like, when you did that, my blood went cold. I got goosebumps. I was so scared. I was scared for you. And it's irrational. I know it doesn't make sense, but emotionally I had this effect. And I thought that was interesting. How deep-seated those fears are. My dog's barking because Natalie's home. Go get her, buddy. Get her. Go get her. 6 pounds of ankle-high death that will rain down upon you. I think she brought dinner. What time is it? I've been on the air for just under an hour. I probably better call it. I'm going to go down and we're going to break bread together before the food gets cold, and we'll go take care of little Gracie, our little foster dog. In the meantime, if you want me to do a cameo, want me to say hi to you or somebody you know, I appreciate the support. I try to knock those out the same day that I get the request. Just look me up at cameo.com, type in Seth Andrews, and it's been fun. And then you can go to sethandrews.com for the book if you want a signed copy, or Amazon or Audible. By the way, did you know right now I'm #1 on audible.com in the atheism category? Now, granted, I'm a small fish in a shot glass. I'm not even a big fish in the ocean. I'm a goldfish in a shot glass because it's not a huge category. But right now, Confessions of a Former, Fox News Christian, the audiobook, is #1 in atheism at audible.com. It's a notch above the God Delusion. So I went on Twitter and I'm like, fight me, Richard. Like Richard Dawkins, who wrote the foreword to Deconverted, the second edition for me. And we're friends. Yeah, so I can do this. But, he's just so proper. It made it even funnier. I'm like, fight me, Richard. You want a piece? You want to go? Oh, look who's #1. I was that guy. screenshotting it because you know it's going to last for about 10 more seconds, and then The God Delusion, which has been a squillion bestseller for 13 freaking years, is going to go back to the top of the list, as it should. It really is a masterwork. But I mean, that felt so good. It felt so good to see people responding to it. And I'm so thankful that people are. So anyway, fight me, Richard. You know, bring it. It's Thunderdome, baby. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's number 2 versus number 1. Hello. Be safe out there, my friends. These are weird days, but we got each other. We're going to get through it together. Podcast releases tomorrow. It's called Unzipped. It's about Jerry Falwell Jr. and those like him. And I will see you then. Have a wonderful night.